Hello and welcome to another 5 minutes with Mr. Graham. Today we're going to talk about the length of lines and the distance between points. And one cool way I thought we would do this is to actually look at problems that we do in our warm-up and in our homework. And in doing these problems together, hopefully you'll get a better understanding of what's going on. Let's start our timer. Try to keep it to an easy 5 minutes, and here we go. Yeah, we're focusing on homework and warm-up problems. The first of which is this one right here. You'll see this question asking you to look at the line segment shown below, and you see it has two ordered pairs, 2, 1, and 6, 1, and they're connected by a line. The question is, what is the length of the line? Now, your first instinct might be to count. 1, 2, yeah, but you know, there's nothing really here to count. There's no lines going up and down. There's no boxes or anything like that. The best thing that you can always do is ask yourself, when you look at these points, what two numbers are the same? And in this case, the 1 and the 1, the y-axis numbers are the same. If the y-axis numbers are the same, then you ignore them. If the x-axis numbers were the same, you would ignore them. But in this case, they're not. As you can see, 6 and 2 are two different numbers. And all you would have to do at this point is take the 6 that came from here. Notice it's the bigger of the two. Take the 2 that came from there. Notice it's the smaller. And do some subtraction. 6 minus 2 is 4. And if you could do that simple subtraction, you would see that C, 4 units, is the right answer. Let's move on to another kind of version of this question. It's kind of big. Let me shrink it down a little bit for you. There you go. Alright, it says, look at the graph. Point S is at 5, 8. That's important information. They give you an ordered pair. Point F is at 5, 1. Okay, I see that, I see that. The question is, how can you find the number of units from point S to point F? In other words, how do you find the length of this line? And we just did it a second ago, so it's not that hard. We have to ask ourselves, you know, what in the ordered pair is different and what's the same? Hopefully you realize that the x-axis numbers, the 5 and the 5, the first digits, they're the same. So we don't necessarily want to do anything with them. But the second number, the 1 and the 8 in the y-axis, they're different. We can play around with those. If we wanted to find the length of this, all we have to do is take the bigger one, the 8, subtract it from the smaller one, the 1, and we get 7. But let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. Let's see what the question actually asked us to do. It asked us, how can you find the number of units from point S to point F? Add 5 plus 8. Add 1 plus 8. Subtract 8 minus 5, or subtract 8 minus 1. Well, if you're paying attention, I think you'll see that we subtracted 8 minus 1. So D is the correct response. One more time, similar kind of problem. I'll talk a little less so that you have a chance to think in your head. What is the length of the line segment shown on the grid? Alright, take a look at these points. Figure out what's the same and what's different. You might discover that 3, 4 and 3, negative 5, well, the 4 and the negative 5, they're the different ones. Now this poses a challenge. 4 minus negative 5, that's big kid math. And if you don't know how to subtract negatives, you're in a little bit of trouble. I'll give you a hint. When you subtract a negative, you're actually adding. 4 plus 5 equals 9. But what if I didn't know how to subtract negatives, Mr. Graham? Hey, this time, they do give you something you can count. Look, we start at the dot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, the answer is 9. So don't let these negative numbers scare you if you have lines that you can count on. But what if I don't have a graph at all? What if there is no line? What if we have something like this? What is the length in units of a line segment? There's our timer, we're almost done. Of a line segment with the endpoints of 1, 2 and 1, 9. There's no graph. There's no lines to count. What do? We have to go back to what Mr. Graham said before. You notice that the 1s are the same. You do nothing with them. But the 2 and the 9, they're different. Which one's bigger? 9. Which one's smaller? 2. 9 minus 2 is... That's right. You should have selected C. If you're having no problem with all these questions except for this one, you're doing pretty well. They threw you a tough one by adding a negative number in there. It makes it so that you have to pretty much count all the little boxes to get a correct answer. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you guys next time. 5 minutes with Mr. Graham.